Roshan Keeley and you're listening to the MN404 radio talk show. And today we're going to be linking topics from our group dynamics class with the basketball teams that are the Golden State Warriors and the New York Knicks. So today we have two very special guests that are going to be speaking to us about the overall performance of the Knicks and the Golden Warriors. And the first guest is Steve Kerr, who was the head coach of the Warriors, and Derek Fisher, who was the head coach from 2014 to 2016 of the Knicks. Okay, so let's just jump straight into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your team's overall performance?
Hello, Ro. Thanks for having us today. Well, I have to admit that our 15-16 season was nearly perfect. We opened it with a great start of 24 wins and went on to break a number of records, including best regular season record, most wins in a season, and the longest home winning streak, to just name a few of them. So I'd like to say that my team did very well overall, although I have to admit that I regretted very much that we couldn't top it off with a title at the end.
Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned for us in the 2014-2015 season. We struggled throughout the whole year without ever really having a few consecutive good weeks. I don't think we were on the same page with the general manager and the owner. The management didn't seem to worry too much about the actual performance. We missed the playoffs for 5 consecutive years and only won one single playoff series in the past 17 years, yet we are easily the most valuable organization in the NBA with a net worth of $3.3 billion.
That's very interesting. So, what may have been the reasons to influence these results? And was it the team's organization, leadership, or a little bit of both? Can you tell us more about this?
I believe it was a mix of everything, and most of all a product of what we've been working on in the past, getting ready for this season. We built a team with a lot of very talented individuals who possess the qualities that we were looking for. And I think we differentiate ourselves from other teams in a sense that they built those so-called super teams, while we created one by developing players that were already on our team. So we didn't bring any renowned superstars and just put them all together, but rather created superstars from players that were never all-stars before.
At some points, it just felt like everything was going wrong for us. Even when we managed to connect a few good games, we fell back down. I hate to admit it, but my lack of experience could also be a reason for us not being able to find a way out. It was my first head coaching job after all. When you lose a few games, morale drops, tension rises, and the conflict starts. When you combine that with transfer requests and trade rumors, the team completely falls apart, which is what happened to us.
What went right or wrong, and why do you think that your teams had a good or bad season?
That's a good question. But I think we were lucky in terms of our key players staying healthy. We had a great team to start with, which we've been building on for a few years, so we expected the players to grow close to each other, and we expected the team to mature in a sense, and I think that's exactly what happened. Then Steph Curry stepped up, Draymond Green stepped up, we had Iguodala and Klay Thompson there to support them, and when you build something with a purpose, that's what you get. Leadership all around, and everyone taking responsibility when they were supposed to and stepping up for each other when the others were having a day off.
Well, we had a relatively new team to start with, so I didn't have much to work with. We expected Carmelo, along with Stoudemire and Bogdanovic, to be our main players who will carry the team, but all of them struggled with injuries, so we could not constantly rely on them. I've requested a few trades mid-season, but the management didn't seriously consider them. It seemed like they were more worried about the financials instead of our on-court performance. And if it wasn't bad enough, we lost Shumpert and JR in that trade with the Cavaliers, which hit us even harder.
And can you please share with the audience more about your selection process? Like, what do you think about when you're picking players? Like, what their attributes are to the team? What skills do they need?
Since we finished in relatively low positions in the past few years, we've had quite a few high draft picks available, which are always a good opportunity to acquire the biggest prospects entering the league. Looking back, the picks now and what they have contributed, I believe that we could have done better with our player selection process. Thanasis and Early both played in less than half of the games and played for our developmental league team, which is definitely not why we selected them.
Well, one way to acquire players is through the NBA draft, which is held every year in June. But for us, players drafted from college didn't play a major role in the past few seasons. We relied way more on experienced players that have been on the team for a few years already. Since we were successful in the past years, we didn't even have any high draft picks on our hands. And free agency signings and acquiring players through trades are another ways to acquire new players. But yeah, like I said, those were our preferred ways of adding our high-profile players.
So for our final question, what do you think your teams could do in the future to improve your performance?
Well, it's always you always see things differently when you look back after a few years, but I think we should have stayed more humble until the very last second of the season. Losing the final series in 7 games was a big hit for us, and it really was a big shame we couldn't finish this extraordinary season with a title. Perhaps there was some social loafing starting to go on towards the end of the season because the players might have been unconsciously relying on others to do the job, especially in the finals. And maybe my players were a little blinded by the almost spotless season we had, and they just expected that the title belonged to us, which obviously wasn't the case.
I believe that more team cohesion would definitely be helpful. We struggled a lot in this aspect. Even with our leaders not being in top form, we could have done way more if we had only stayed cohesive, but the team just looked like it couldn't connect. Unfortunately, seasons like this are also a part of the sport, so no reason to give up. Things have been looking better since 2015, and I see the next organization becoming more ambitious in terms of building another strong team for next season, especially if we manage to convince Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant to join us. That could bring us back into the playoffs and back on the winning track that an organization like ours deserves.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us today. I know that you have very busy schedules.
Thank you, Ro. It was a pleasure talking to you.
And I also want to thank the followers who have been listening, and stay tuned for next week. Follow our MN404 radio show on Twitter and hashtag MN404 to please share your thoughts on what was spoken about today. Have a good week.